Okay, so I went on a date with this girl last week, and she was a really nice girl. Like, I met her just in a bar. Basically, she was waitressing, and I just saw her waitressing, and I just thought, life's too short. Gotta sort of make the most of the opportunities we have in life. And so I just went up to her and asked for a number, and it's quite funny. She wrote it down on a sort of the end of a receipt, which I thought was quite kind of old school, quite romantic. And anyway, like, we were texting for a bit, and we eventually met up. I just took her to this coffee shop that was in there's this kind of quite cool, quite kind of artisan mall called the Covered Market or something like that. It's kind of market area with lots of small shops in Oxford, and we just went there. Went to this kind of Balkan themed coffee shop, and just got a coffee and just talked for a bit. And it was a really nice experience. She was a really interesting girl. Very attractive. We were very similar, and it was fun talking to her. We had some interesting conversations. The conversation flowed. A lot of good memories, right? But in my head, like, as we were sort of coming towards the end of the date, I began to recognise how I should play it, just because I became familiar with situations like this that I've been in the past, where basically I realised that with this girl, if I played it cool, it would be more likely that she would be interested in me for longer. Or that is to say more, because there's a difference between playing cool and leading people on or whatever, but I basically recognised that if I wanted to see her again, I was going to have to basically lead her on a bit, like be quite sort of distant, kind of dog and bone sort of thing. Because I feel like with the initial meeting up with a girl, like, especially if you cold approached her, which I had, you can actually be a little bit more forward. You don't have to play it as cool as, let's say, in different circumstances, like on dating apps and stuff like that. Although that's another conversation as well. But I'd say just in general, like, the first date, like, before we actually met up with them, you can afford to be a bit less cool, a bit more forwards in like, yeah, I want to meet up with you. But once you're on that first date, I think for a lot of people, you've got to change the dynamic a bit, like I've noticed. And you want to make yourself a little bit less available. At least this is what works for a lot of girls. And the reason for this is because there is this idea of attachment theory, which is basically what kind of relationship, how you basically perceive love in other people. And a lot of people have kind of faulty attachment systems. So there's like the best one, which is kind of the secure attachment system. But then there's the avoidant attachment system, and there's the sort of insecure attachment system, the kind of anxious attachment system. And there's the kind of another one which is both bad ones together, so you're both anxious and you're avoidant. But anyway, the kind of stereotype is that girls tend to be more anxious avoidant, and guys tend to be more anxious attached, and guys tend to be more avoidant attached, right? So the girl kind of, what that means basically, anxious attached is you always feel like you're not quite enough for that person. You're always giving more than they are to you. And the avoidant attachment style is the opposite. It's where you're playing it very cool. You're not giving very much of yourself, very much of your time to the other person. And avoidant, there is a kind of image in my head of like, I see this a lot when guys talk online about relationships, and this is basically the whole red pill idea, is that the girl is a bit avoidant and the guy is a bit, the girl is a bit anxious attached and the guy is a bit avoidant. So this is what guys mean on the red pill when they say, not sort of falling, holding your frame and stuff like that. And there are interesting ideas to be explored there. And I do think, there's a lot to be said for holding your frame and stuff like that. However, I do have trouble with this thing in the red pill of kind of using basically just avoidant attachment style dynamic as like a good relationship, because it's not really good. It doesn't really serve anyone in the long term. I do remember times in the past where I did just basically act very avoidant and, just would not text the girl very much or whatever it was, and kind of engineer them to want me more, and that would lead to more dates, it would lead to more interest in the girl and whatever. But I've come to the conclusion that it's just exhausting to do this, and you actually end up spending much more mental energy if you're acting in an avoidant way towards the girl than if you're just upfront about how you feel. And anyway, I was thinking about what to do with this girl after we left, because we had a really good time, but I don't know, there was something I just picked up in her, that she was basically, I just thought she was a bit avoidant, and which is like, which is fine. Like, I'm not saying my attachment style is perfect either, but I just recognised that if I want to see her again, I'm gonna have to play it cool. And a year ago, or a couple of years ago in particular, I would have really played it very cool. I would have sort of not texted for her for like a period of time, and then sent her one kind of casual text that was kind of a bit indifferent, and then not reply for a while, and kind of engineer it all in my head in like a very complicated way, because I just knew that this would work. This is what would make her want to see me again. But then another part of me was just like, I just can't be bothered to do this anymore. And even if it doesn't lead to me seeing her again, I'd just rather be upfront and just be like, this is how it is, like, and just kind of get on with it, you know what I mean? And in the end, just the next day, I just texted her, I was like, it was lovely to see you. She was going on holiday actually, so I was like, have a nice time, but be nice to see you when you get back, and stuff like that. And I sent it, and I just thought, as I sent it, I just thought to myself, like, this is the kind of text that is going to turn her off, you know what I mean? It's going to make her think, I've kind of, this guy's not being avoidant enough, but at the same time, I just thought, like, that's just how I feel. Like, at the end of the day, why do we have to play all these games? Like, I do want to see her again. It's going to waste so much of my mental energy to overthink it any more than that. I'd much rather just be upfront with it, just send her a text saying that, and then if she's interested, she's interested. But if I'm going to have to play all these sort of games or whatever, then it's just not going to be worth my time. Fair enough. She's kind of disqualified herself, Like, there's this idea in sales of like qualifying questions, right? So she's kind of disqualified herself. I think that is the best case scenario thing to do. Just be like, this is how it is. This is what I want out of this. And in best case scenario, she's like, I'd like to see you again as well. And then we actually do meet up, and that's really great. Or she doesn't reply, and that's the end of it. It's like, okay, well, do I really want to be wasting so much time chasing my tail with her, like trying to play very avoidant attached in order to get her to like me? And the alternative is basically I don't text her, I sort of play all these games with her, and in that situation the same options are true. It's either she's actually like quite secure attached and she's interested in meeting up with me again, or she's quite avoidant attached, and she's only going to be interested with me if I sort of play all these games, right? So in the first scenario, if she is securely attached, she's just gonna be really confused if I'm just giving her all these mixed signals and stuff like that, and she's just gonna be like, oh, this guy's got a bit of a problem. I can't be bothered to deal with it. But if she is avoidant attached, then she'll like it. But then it's just gonna cost me so much more effort, and then being in a relationship with her, it's just gonna be a pain, and it's not gonna truly serve us in the most profound way. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I did in the end. I was just like, look, yeah, this is how it is. I'm interested in seeing you again. Like, yeah, let's meet up again. And, you know, I get that you do need to, you can like take your foot off the brake a bit. You know, you don't want to be texting her every second of the day. Like, you want to have a purpose to ground you and stuff like that. But I think that should come more from, like I say, from sort of purpose, from what you're actually doing during the day. You're actually busy, you're actually living a productive life, rather than from like any active mechanization, rather than like, oh, I'm going to text her in a few days' time because I'm thinking about it now. It's much better for you just to be kind of getting on with your life, and then you're like, oh yeah, I should send her a text, see if she wants to meet up again. And just kind of, yeah, just give it the least thought that you possibly can. And yeah, anyway, that's basically where I am with it. And yeah, I mean, she didn't get back to me, and I was just, in a sense, it's a sad thing. I mean, I remember I was talking to my dad about some of these videos, and occasionally he watches them, and he was saying, oh, it's a bit sad, you know, when you talk about relationships and stuff like that. And it is sad in a sense, but I'm trying to make this because I do think, even though it is sad, like this, it cannot be any other way, you know, and like, this is how the dating scene is today, you know, everyone, I don't know if it's always been like this, but it's definitely how it is at the moment. Everyone's just got these weird attachment things, and you've got to play it very cool and whatever, and I'm sure that's always existed to an extent, but still, I do think the best way to navigate it today is not to play along with it, because it's a waste of time, and to just be very clear and intentional about what you want, and don't waste your time with things that aren't gonna truly serve you. And yeah, so I've really just left it at that, basically. But thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoy these videos, I am doing some coaching at the moment, so it'd be great to hear from you. It's just the top link in the description. And apart from that, I'll see you in the next one.